We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. All right.
Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Come on and slam, you want to jam.
All right, everybody, welcome, hello and welcome to the first and inaugural episode of the Slam Drunks podcast presented by Bias Boston Sports. I am your host, Nick Piccioni. Alongside me is my wingman, Pete Pikowski. How you doing tonight, Pete?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
And as everybody knows, a night out the bar requires a designated driver. Tonight's DD will be Ryan Kohlhofer, also known as Darth Cauliflower. How you doing, my friend?
What's going on?
All right, everybody. So today we got a nice show for you. There's a lot of NBA news going around. We got LeBron, Kawhi, Kyrie, and the draft in the news. But we're going to start off with a little retrospective on the season that was for the 2017-2018 Celtics. I'll let Pete go ahead and start us off. Pete, what are your general thoughts and any points you really want to make about this year's Celtics team that interested you?
Well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that the season ended after 5 minutes. Like, nobody thought that this team was going to get as far as they did after Hayward got injured, and then the Kyrie injury, and then shit kind of hit the fan after that. But I think it was probably a pretty good learning experience for the young guys, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, especially Jason Tatum. I mean, everyone knew, I think, that he was pretty special, like, when they were in the draft, and it was pretty well known that what Danny felt about him, but I don't think anybody thought he was going to be as good and make as big of a jump he did in his rookie season. I'm pretty excited to see him going into the future. I know a lot of people too, like, are saying now that he may be able to be a member of the big three. So that pretty much excites me. But like I said, it was just pretty much like a little engine that could type story. And eventually they obviously ran out to Cleveland. But I mean, it was a fun 80, 90, whatever games.
Yep. Ryan, what are your thoughts? Let's hear from you.
Yeah, it was a fun season to watch, being a Celtics fan and all. I mean, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier all stepped up when they needed to when the injuries happened to Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, and you had some contributions from Marcus Morris and the whole gang there. So all in all, it was upsetting they lost in Game 7, but you can't really be that upset about it. So
yeah, so that's something I actually wanted to ask you guys about. I agree with you all that this season should have been over about 5 minutes in, and then it went on to almost become a NBA Finals appearance. But do we have a right, and should we be disappointed with the fact that the Celtics were up 3-2 in the Eastern Conference and they couldn't close it out against Cleveland? Should we be disappointed in the fact that they ended up losing that series?
You can go with that there.
I would say, well, it's hard to beat LeBron in a 7-game series. So even though you're up 3-2, it's really hard to put them away, and especially when you have a young team like that, not a lot of experience in the playoffs. So I'm going to say, you know what, it was a good season. They learned a lot. They'll get better next year, adding 2 All-Stars back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. I mean, this team was notoriously known for not being able to win on the road in the playoffs. So in that sense, Game 6 was almost a wash. You knew that it was going to come to a Game 7. And then you're relying on Jason Tatum, who a year and a half ago was playing in a high school gym, Jaylen Brown, who really doesn't have that much of an outside game, although his three-point percentage got way better this season. And then Al Horford, he's not one of those guys I think that you can rely on for 20 and 10 every single night. So in that sense, I understand where you're coming from, but it's hard for me to look at the team if you're just looking straight up at the roster and be angry that they lost to Cleveland, especially too when the opposing team has the best player on the planet. In that sense, I mean, and he's, for as much shit as we give LeBron, he's definitely turned into like a pretty clutch player. And in Game 7s, he definitely turns it on a lot more than he did, when Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen were playing for the Celtics.
Yeah, I think that's all fair points there. Speaking of LeBron, why don't we go ahead and talk about LeBron James? LeBron James is a free agent this summer. As we have all been told, the most likely landing spots for him are LA, Philly, and Houston. But recently, there have been some rumors that the Celtics might be in play for him. Do you give that any credence at all? Do you think there's any chance he ends up with the Celtics, Pete?
I'd say maybe like 10%. Because if you're looking at it from a straight basketball perspective, there's no doubt in my mind that the Celtics are probably the most up-and-coming team in the NBA right now. I mean, if you look out west, nobody's going to challenge Golden State. Kevin Durant's talking about retiring in 5 years or whatever. LA always kind of has that sex appeal around them just because it is the Lakers, and it's the uniform and it's the city and everybody wants to go play there. And I know we'll talk about it in a little bit, but if you can get, if you can make a trade for Kawhi Leonard, if you can sign Paul George, and you can sign LeBron, that's a pretty legit starting three, a big three. And, I think that they're probably going to, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like a 10% chance. I think that the Celtics, like I said, on basketball, they look like, on paper, they look like a good option for LeBron, but I think that there's just so much more around it. I mean, if you talk about his family, his wife, all these other kind of stuff that goes on with making the decision. And for me, I don't think LeBron's thinking about it from a straight basketball perspective anymore, which is unfortunate because I think the Celtics would be a great option for him.
Yeah, the whole family thing is weird to me. Like, there's a lot of shit that people are posting on Twitter saying that he's definitely going to LA because his kid has switched his enrollment in high school to an LA high school, or his wife switched her gym membership to a Planet Fitness out in fucking Princeton or wherever the fuck in California. There's a lot of craziness that goes along with LeBron that makes it almost unwatchable. But at the same time, I can't turn away. I don't know about you, Ryan. What do you think about the whole situation?
I think this is all blown up by the media, to be honest. When a guy of his caliber or any all-star free agent becomes available on the market or through trade, the media says, oh, Brad Stevens, young core, and draft capital, these guys can fit anywhere on the roster. But I just can't see this happening. I don't think Celtics fans can possibly root for LeBron. I know I can personally, but a lot of them are going to have trouble with that.
You see, I think that's the funniest part is that the mental pretzels that Celtics fans are finding themselves in right now, deciding what they feel about the possibility of LeBron joining their team. Because for us, especially guys in their 20s and younger like us, we've spent our entire basketball fandoms hating LeBron James actively and passionately. And now there's a chance we might have to root for him on our team. It's such a mindfuck for so many Celtics fans that it's really funny to watch people melt down on Twitter. But it would be even funnier to watch it if it actually happened. Where do you stand on what would your opinion be if LeBron came to Boston, Pete?
At first, I was a pretty hardcore LeBron hater, especially with his first stint with Cleveland, and then he went to Miami. But now that he's back in Cleveland, I don't hate him that much. And I'm one of those people too that I love the legends of the sport and the legacies that people can develop during your time. So if you try to take away the uniforms of it and you're just looking at the player, you're like, holy shit, LeBron is on another level of talent. And for me, I kind of related to watching Brady, or if you're watching, can't think of. You're watching Wayne Gretzky, or you're watching Roger Clemens, or whoever, just these absolute monsters of the game. If you take away the uniform, if you take away all the passion, everything like that, just the raw talent that they possess is insane. So for me, I've been able to do that in the past couple of seasons, and watching what LeBron is able to do, it's incredible. I mean, I know he's a bitch on the court and everything like that, but if you just take all that away from it, I can't help but respect him anymore.
You see, that's the thing that was hard for me personally is he's a floppy little baby on the court. Do you remember in the finals, I think it was the first Warriors-Cavs finals, Draymond Green said that he was a bitch, and his response was, I'm not a bitch, I have a wife and 2 kids. And Draymond's response was, yeah, you still a bitch, though. His antics on the court, and what gets me is all the stuff off the court. He was such a petulant little child during the post-game press conferences this postseason. It's and you know what the thing that makes me worried is that it's starting to infect Brady a little bit. Brady's becoming this kind of weird culty diva, and the thing with LeBron is he's been that since he was 18. He's always been insufferable, which is insane. You've been in the league for so long and you've never been able to accrue a modicum of self-awareness in a good way. He knows how to be self-aware to be a dick about it, but actually being having a introspective look at himself and thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. He can't do it. He just can't, which is why I don't think he would ever work in Boston, even though it would be great, because he can't change. He can't accept not having complete control, and he can't accept having to be coached by a coach who actually is competent, unlike Tyronn Lue. No matter how much Jeff Van Grundle wants to push Tyronn Lue being a great coach down everyone's throat, he sucks. He's not any good. The most famous thing he's ever done was get absolutely stepped on and teabagged by Allen Iverson. So I don't want to hear he's a good coach. LeBron's never had a good coach, and he doesn't want one.
I think, too, that sport kind of breeds that type of people and that type of attitude, though. If you look at the best players in basketball, I mean, even dating back 20 years or whatever like that, it's always been a player-driven league. So these dudes know that they can act a certain way, and there's going to be no repercussion for it just because. And we were talking about LeBron doing this for 15 or 20 years or whatever. He came into the league when he was 18, 19 years old. So you're not even a full-grown adult when you do that, you know? So it's kind of like he never really grew up, because you see that going on probably in like AAU. But if you have a guy that's handed everything to him because he's so talented, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So from one petulant child to someone who acted like a petulant child this last season, we'll talk about Kawhi Leonard now. Kawhi Leonard is on the trading block, or it seems like he really wants out of San Antonio. Apparently, the Celtics tried to acquire him at the trade deadline this winter, with no counteroffer offered back to them. So this is really interesting. He kind of babied a quad injury and milked it a lot the whole season and just kind of didn't end up playing. So I don't know where his head's at. We all know that he can be a great competitor because he shut down LeBron in that second San Antonio final. So I don't know what kind of Kawhi Leonard you get if you traded for him. But Ryan, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Kawhi Leonard situation going on right now in San Antonio?
This is probably one of the more odd situations I remember of recent time. And when you have a guy of Kawhi's caliber and he's on the trade market, you got to go after him. You know he's on a one-year deal. In terms of who I'd give up from the Celtics' point of view, I would give up Jaylen Brown and picks only if he signs the extension with the team. I don't think it's worth giving up Jaylen and having him walk and go to the Lakers next season.
Yeah, the contract situation is a really interesting thing around the NBA right now. We're going to talk about Kyrie in a little bit and how he might factor into both the LeBron discussion and the Kawhi discussion. But his contract's definitely an issue. Pete, what are your thoughts concerning the contract, concerning what you give up for him, and where you think he might end up?
Yeah, I mean, if you have like Ryan said, if you have a guy that's a top 5, top 10, wherever you put him, NBA player in the league, and he's on the trading block, I mean, you almost, especially if your team like the Celtics that are right on the cusp of not only winning the East, but maybe able to go all the way and get into the NBA Finals and win them. For me, that's a no-brainer. In terms of what you're going to give up, like Ryan said, I'm iffy on what they're going to give up. I mean, if you give up Jaylen Brown, you're giving up a guy that you have years of control for a guy that you have for a season, which I'm kind of iffy on that. The picks, I'm whatever with the picks. I don't care about them anymore. They just have too many of them for me. For me, this team is kind of like in a win now mode. So I'm okay with that. But the thing that is a little underplayed is the salary stuffers to make the deal actually work and what the Celtics are going to have to give up. I know a lot of people are saying that they may have to give up Marcus Morris or, a guy of that caliber. And that is a deal that could low-key hurt the Celtics, because if you're getting Kawhi, you have Kyrie, Kawhi, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, and Jason Tatum. But after that, on the bench, you really don't have that much going on outside of maybe Terry Rozier. And especially, I mean, you may not be able to re-sign Marcus Smart. You just may be too much over the cap if you decide to go after Kawhi. So, it's definitely interesting to look at from that perspective. I know, too, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I have seen, too, that the Celtics are interested in maybe doing like a Kyrie for Kawhi swap. And that's something that, they may be interested in, too. I don't know. I personally wouldn't do that because I want to keep the whole gang together, even if it's just for one season. Because if you bring in Kawhi, you give up picks, you give up Jaylen Brown, I think you have a legit shot of dethroning the Warriors.
Yeah, so the Kyrie thing is interesting because their money matches up, and so does their contract situation. The one thing that I don't think anyone's talked about, and I think the reason they haven't talked about it is because 1-for-1 it wouldn't work in terms of talent. But if you use Al Horford for the money, and you probably have to include a Jaylen or a bunch of picks or something. But if you include Al Horford, you can keep Kyrie and Kawhi together, which is something that they've talked about wanting to play together. And if you have Kyrie at your 2, and then Tatum and Hayward or Jaylen, depending on what you end up having to do, I think that might be an interesting thing. I don't know how feasible that is, but it's something that I thought of. And then Jimmy Stewart, being the Jimmy Stewart type that he is, did you see this trade machine that he tweeted out? It was
you sent in the chat, right?
Yeah, it was sending Kawhi from San Antonio to New Orleans, sending Kyrie to New Orleans, and sending Anthony Davis to the Celtics. Jimmy Stewart's a madman, but if that happened, I think I'd cream my pants. Like completely unusable after that point. Like, I don't know what I'd do if that happened. That would be insane.
Well, ultimately, I think that one piece that the Celtics really need, I mean, Kawhi would be great. And talking about positionless basketball, that's obviously something that, I mean, you have to utilize if you have Kyrie, because you're not going to really have a power forward. You're going to be a pretty undersized team, especially if you lose Jaylen Brown. But from the perspective of Anthony Davis, if you want to keep this team together, and there's really that one piece that the Celtics want to get to really push themselves forward, for me, it's Anthony Davis. I mean, he just does everything that the Celtics really need.
Yeah, so this wasn't on the itinerary, but I did see it right before the show started that there is some dissent going on in Minnesota, where Jimmy Butler's not sure if he wants to play with Andrew Wiggins because he doesn't like the way that he plays and the way that he plays defense. So there's a lot there are issues, and there are a lot of cracks in Minnesota after their one good season. So there's a chance that Karl Anthony Towns could be moved as well. That's coming to a head at some point. I would also be willing to move players that I wouldn't be willing to move for anyone else for Anthony Davis and Karl Anthony Towns. Those are the only two that I would move people like. I might move Tatum for either of those guys, even though I love Jason Tatum. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan? I hear you.
I don't know. I'm not going to go that far and give up Tatum. Towns is a guy, he's very talented offensively, good rebounder, but his defense is subpar at best. But I know in a Brad Stevens system, he can possibly turn it around. But giving up Tatum, I don't know. Tatum is a superstar for the next 10 years, and I just can't give that up. He's started on the Celtics. He's going to have to end with the Celtics for me.
Yeah, you too, Pete?
Yeah, I mean,
Et tu, Pete?
just thinking of the guys that I'd give up in regard to Jason. Like, there's just nobody there. I mean, really, I can't think of one guy. Maybe, I mean, you're talking
you
about
give him up for Anthony Davis.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jason Tatum. I mean, I don't know. That would be really, really tough for me. If he gains a little bit of weight and he gains a little bit of muscle, I mean, we saw him in the Cleveland series. He had a little bit of trouble finishing at the rim. But other than that, I mean, his game is really solid for a 19, 20-year-old right now. It would be really tough for me to give him up.
I agree, but if it's Anthony Davis, I'm thinking about it at least.
I'm definitely thinking about it.
Anthony Davis is a planet player. There's not another Anthony Davis in the league. And the closest to it is Karl Anthony Towns. Like, if you say you won't give up Tatum for Towns, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But Anthony Davis, I'd have to think about it very seriously. That would be a legitimate discussion to be had.
The thing is, though, they're going to want more than just Tatum for Davis, which is what pushes me very far to the no side on that trade. They won't do it straight up.
Yeah, that's fine. I feel that. So let's talk about Kyrie real quick. The news came out in the last week or so that Kyrie Irving isn't going to discuss an extension during this offseason. Now rumors are swirling that he wants to go for the Knicks for some reason. I guess he hates himself, but whatever. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Kyrie Irving situation?
It's so dumb
here. So dumb?
I think it's just blown up completely. I mean, he's not going to sign an extension now. He loses close to $100 million or something. If he has to wait until his deal's up. And the rumors of him going to the Knicks are, I don't know. They make the excuses of, oh yeah, when he was on Cleveland, he made his no trade list. It was Minnesota, the Knicks, the Spurs, and there was one other team I forgot it was.
Miami.
And yeah, Miami. That's right. And I don't really see this happening. I don't see why he'd want to leave.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Kyrie to remember is that he is not, I wouldn't say a drifter, but he gets bored of places very easily. Like, he played at Kentucky for, 8 games left. I mean, obviously, because he was the top prospect, he should have. Played at Cleveland, eventually got tired, went to Boston. Who knows if he'll get tired of that, too. I think he should stay, obviously. As if he really does, if he cares about winning, he'll stay. He won't go to the fucking Knicks. They're the trash can of the NBA. This bothers me, by the way. Whenever any Knicks fans come at people on Twitter talking about how they're NBA royalty, my friend, the Knicks suck so much dick. They're so bad. They've never been good. They've had like 3 good seasons. Do they even have an NBA title? I honestly don't know. They have 1 or 0. Like, that's it. They're not royalty. I hate the Knicks discussions. Like, the Knicks suck historically and currently and in the future. The Knicks suck. Pete, take it away. Take the mic away from me.
No, I mean, I agree with Ryan in the sense that if I think it was ESPN tweeted out like a whole list of things that Kyrie could do. And if he signed an extension now, it wouldn't make any monetary sense for him. I think he's leaving like $80 million on the table. But I do agree with the sense that he's been kind of vague about it, where he could just, I mean, he's been given ample opportunity where he can just be like, oh, yeah, I'm committed to the Celtics moving forward. I'm excited to see the direction of this team. Done. I mean, and then we're not having this discussion at all. So, I mean, and you talking about him staying at Duke one year and then being in Cleveland for a couple of years and wanting to move to Boston, like being that drifter type, I've definitely like heard other people say that and agree with it. And him not saying anything, like I said, is a concern. But if the Celtics have a great season, I agree with you guys. Why would he leave? Like, there's no reason for him to leave. I mean, he can't get a much better situation than being the 1 or 1A, depending on who the Celtics get in the near future, option for a team that is definitely going to win the East and be in the NBA Finals every single year, probably match up against Golden State.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, the thing with like him saying what's on his mind is no matter what he says, the media is going to tear him apart. Like, you remember when Isaiah Thomas kept saying, like, Isaiah Thomas was honest. He's like, I want to be paid as much money as humanly possible, and the radio stations here ripped him to shreds for it. Like, it's kind of a no-win situation when you're talking about your contract and money here in Boston. So I don't really blame him for the approach that he took. But at the same time, like you said, Pete, I would like him to have been a little bit more forthcoming with information. Like, it was kind of annoying for him not to be honest with everybody. But yeah, I guess that's what we're dealing with right now, because he is an enigma. He's a very unique character in the NBA scene. Why don't we?
The thing that's concerning too is that if it's just about money, like you're talking about, then the Celtics can offer him the most money by far because they can offer him the Supermax, and no other team can offer. I think it's within it's like $30 or $40 million more the Celtics can offer than any other team.
The Supermax is significantly more money. It's not like the old system where the max gives you an extra year and an extra like $5 million per. It's a buttload of money that you could get by staying with the team that can give you the Supermax.
So if it's just about the money, then the Celtics make all the sense in the world. So for him to not even be committing about the money, it makes me wonder like where his head's at, Yeah,
because the Supermax thing was possibly the reason why the Celtics were able to get Gordon Hayward, because he didn't make the NBA All-NBA team the year of his last year of his contract, so he wasn't eligible for Supermax. So Utah could only do the standard one more year, $4 or $5 million extra per offer. If Utah could have offered him the Supermax, I think he might have stayed. But the Supermax is important, and Kyrie Irving is already eligible as he's already made an All-NBA team. Ryan, do you have anything else to say on Kyrie Irving, or should we move into the draft?
He's just a weird guy, I guess.
He's a weirdo. I blame the veganism, the plant-based diet, and the
flat
Earth being flat. Yeah, we're all spitting on a frisbee, right? Let's talk about the draft a little bit. So we've got a lot of news regarding the Celtics in terms of the draft. They've been linked to a couple guys, Dante DiVincenzo, Grayson Allen. Those are the couple names that float around. A lot of Grayson Allen recently. Ryan, I don't know how much into the draft you've looked, but what are your thoughts on the Celtics' position in the draft, and what do you think they're going to do?
Sitting at 27, they don't really have many roster spots open, so I wonder if they're going to do a draft and stash or maybe trade for next year or something. But for the guys available, I see a guy, Mitchell Robinson, a 7-footer. He was the number 9 prospect on 24/7 Sports coming into the season. Didn't play a game in college this season from suspension.
He didn't play a game in college because he just up and left his college and decided not to play. Like, he's a weird dude.
He's a very talented big man. I think he'd fit really well on this team. And a need as well, shot blocker.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's a 7-footer, like Ryan said. He's the whole not going to college thing. Like, it's one thing for Brad Stevens to get a guy who might have a bit of like a attitude problem like Marcus Morris. It's another thing for him to get a guy who's a complete fucking nutcase like this guy. He didn't go to college, and then he also didn't play competitive basketball anywhere else. Like, it's not like he went to China for a year or to France. He just kind of sat on his ass and like did drills to get himself ready for basketball season. Pete, what do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, I don't really know a lot about the NBA draft. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watched even a second of college basketball. But I do think that the Celtics, I like Ryan said, I think they definitely need a big guy. But other than that, there's not a ton of roster spots. So I wouldn't hate to see them trade up. I don't know who they're necessarily going to trade. But I know that they've been absolutely obsessed with Mo Bamba recently, so if they can get into that like top 5, 6, then he's a guy that they could be after. But I definitely agree that they do need that big guy, because if I look at the roster, like I've said before, that's the one area of need for this team, is that they do need that big guy, because I don't think Al Horford is incredibly comfortable playing the 5. Even in today, like we talk about the positionless basketball type crap, I do still think that they need a big guy that can stay down low and rebound.
Yeah, so the thing with Mo Bamba that will make you happy, Pete, as you are a Texas man, you are a Hookem disciple. There's a lot of talk about the guys in the top 5 who aren't Phoenix at number 1 wanting to trade out. I've seen Memphis talking about trading out of their number 4 spot. I've seen Sacramento possibly trading out of the 2. So there is an opening to get up there, but considering the general thought about the talent in the top end of this draft, it's going to be a high price to get up there. And I don't know how much the Celtics are willing to give up on their roster of known commodities to go and get a guy, unless they are as confident in him as they were with Jason Tatum last year.
Which I don't think they should be, to be honest. I mean, I've watched a little bit of college basketball, obviously Texas, and I mean, he's a good player, but he tends to disappear a lot. He can rebound, but other than that, like there's not a ton to his game. So, I mean, if that's the kind of guy that I don't put him in the same category as Jason Tatum. And again, I'm not 100% sure that he necessarily fits like their system. He's an athletic big guy, but he can't shoot, so he can't stretch the court at all. So that concerns me, especially too if we're talking about what they're actually going to have to give up to get up that high.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about some of the other prospects they've been linked to, guys. One guy that I know Pete will know about is Grayson Allen. Pete, why don't you tell us your thoughts about Grayson Allen joining the Celtics?
I love him, to be honest. I mean, he's that guy that just pisses everyone. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Danny Ainge. I know
he reminds me of Marcus Smart, too.
Yeah, people make that comparison of a guy that just pisses everybody off. And, I mean, he's a good shooter. He tries on defense. I mean, in that sense, I don't have a problem with him at all. I know people hate him so much, but for me, like, I look at his game, I don't really hate Duke that much as other people do. You know, if you're like a UNC guy, you hate Duke. If you're a Duke guy, you hate UNC. I don't give a shit. Like, I like his game a lot.
Yeah, he's a big dickling. He is a little shit in the worst way possible. He's the tripper, right? Draymond Green is the guy who kicks people in the dick, and he's the guy who trips people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Grayson Allen possibly wearing Celtics green next year?
Obviously, when he's a Celtic, he's a guy you love. When he's on any other team, you hate his guts. A guy like Draymond Green, a guy like Brett Marchand, just those kind of guys, when they're on your team, it's just some special edge that they bring. Kind of makes you smile on the couch wherever you're watching. Say, got you there. And I just love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely a pest, a classic pest. And not to mention a wonderful Ted Cruz lookalike, if that's important to you.
Nick, we don't want to talk about this.
hey, it's with the open chest hair, I look like a mob boss. I don't look like Ted Cruz, all right? It's just the nose. It's the big Italian nose, all right? Don't give me that Ted Cruz shit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Fucking Pete. Let's talk about Dante DiVincenzo, another shooting guard. He's out of Villanova, obviously. They had a great run while he was there. What are your thoughts on Dante DiVincenzo, Ryan?
He had a really good combine and obviously a really good tournament run there. Other than that, I haven't really been paying that much attention to him. So his tools are pretty measurable. I think they'll translate to the NBA game as a role player off the bench. I think he can be a nice spark. Other than that, I don't really see how high his ceiling is. I don't think he's going to be that good of a player in the NBA, but a good player to have coming off the bench.
I think the interesting thing with DiVincenzo is that I've been seeing him pretty high on draft boards, like late teens, early 20s, which is somewhat out of the Celtics' reach, which is kind of surprising to me because, like you, I don't know how high his ceiling really is. Like, I think he's a good, solid player who could be maybe a starter, maybe a good backup at his peak. So I don't know why he's so high on everyone's draft board, but if it means that he gets taken and the Celtics get a better player later, I'm fine with that. What about you, Pete? Do you have anything to say on Dante DiVincenzo, or do you know what school Dante DiVincenzo went to?
Actually, while Ryan was talking, I just Googled him, so I just found a little bit.
Oh, come on, Pete.
Not gonna lie. So I was looking at his Wikipedia page, and he won 2 state championships in high school, and then he won 2 with Villanova, obviously. So those are the type of guys, at least in my opinion, I like because they kind of buy into the entire system. I don't know necessarily if that matters as much in like basketball as it does in other sports, but for me, like I like guys that come from the winning programs, and I think that they're probably like more coachable too. So we talk. I mean, the Celtics, one of their biggest assets is Brad Stevens. And if he can get everyone to buy into his system, so if you can get a guy that has won in the past and knows that basketball isn't just all about one person, makes sense for the Celtics. But like you said, I mean, if he's out of their reach, I don't want them stretching to get him.
Yeah, that is the important thing that is one of the most important things with Dante DiVincenzo is he is a winner. The problem with being a winner in basketball is it doesn't matter how big your heart is if you're just going to get stomped on by a LeBron James type. Yeah. So I don't think it matters all that much, even though it's the type of guy that I would like to have around. I like the idea of having a winner on the team. But you never know. I mean, you never know if he'll fall to them or if he'll get picked up early by someone who gets fooled to think that winning is important, I guess. All right, what else do we got? Any big predictions for any big draft trades? Who do you think will trade up into the top 5 if you look into it? I'm kind of just throwing out random questions at you guys now.
I honestly have no idea.
Perfect. I'm glad we all came prepared for me to fire random questions. You guys got to be ready. You know I'm off my ass. I'm just going to fire random shit at you guys. You got to be ready for it. But I think that's about all we wanted to cover. Pretty quick show, about a half hour. But before we go, I do want to get into final takes. I want definitive answers from each of you on 3 questions. I believe we all think that DeAndre Ayton is going number 1 overall to Phoenix, right?
Yes.
So who is your pick to be number 2 in the draft? Who is your second overall pick in the draft?
I'm going to go with Michael Porter Jr.
You're going to go with Michael Porter Jr. You think
that's
he's
my bold prediction. I think he will. I think once they get the medicals in, he's healthy. I think he's going number 2.
I think that's a bold prediction, but it's also smart considering the talent that he has. Yeah. It's hard to gauge exactly what he was going to be because he got injured so early on in the season. But coming out of high school, he was regarded as one of the top talents in the class. So I think it's a reasonable pick, but also it's a little risky, Ryan. All right, a little risky. Pete, what are your thoughts?
So if I'm doing my safe pick, it's Luka Doncic or whatever the hell his name is, which, by the way, I fucking hate how the NBA in general does this. They get absolutely obsessed with one guy that's Australia, Europe, Spain, wherever the hell he's playing, and he's playing in like a middle school gym against like 5'8" painters. That pisses me off.
It's so funny to see the highlights. It's so funny, like seeing him splash from 40 feet and giving like the 3 signs as he walks past an empty gym. It's hilarious.
So if I'm being ballsy, I'm gonna say Mo Bamba because I don't remember where it was, but I saw I don't even think it was Sacramento too. I think I saw them trading out of the pick and one team coming up and trading for him. And honestly, like I get it from the sense that all teams, no matter who you have, are really thirsty for having those guys that can score and just play, like a beast underneath the rim. So that's one thing that the NBA is really starving for. So if you think that you find that guy in college, you better be sure as hell that that's the guy and trade up and get him because not too many of those guys are, around.
All right. So what's your final pick between those two? Who are you picking?
I'm going to go with George Lucas or whatever the hell his name is.
Luka Doncic?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next Mario Hezonja. You don't even know who Mario Hezonja is, do you, Pete?
No.
You shouldn't. He's not worth it. But yeah, the whole Euro thing annoys me too. Like it's worked twice, and with Dirk Nowitzki obviously, and then Kristaps Porzingis. And the funny thing is, when Porzingis was picked, he was universally despised as a pick. Like everyone, that was the one thing that Knicks fans were finally like, we need Phil Jackson's head. Like he's been bad, but this is the last straw. And it turned out to be the only good move he made as the Knicks president of basketball operations. Me personally, I'm going to go with Marvin Bagley. I think Marvin Bagley is an amazing player. I don't know how in every draft I've seen, he's falling to 3 or 4, which I think is a travesty. He was so good at Duke. I remember I didn't watch a ton of basketball because college basketball is worthless until March, but there was one game where I was at a bar, so I couldn't change the channel. It was Texas against Duke. And Texas was up late in the second half, and Marvin Bagley went on a tear, forced overtime, and then went on a tear in overtime and won the game. And that's the kind of guy, he can take over a game like that. That's the kind of guy I look for at number 2. So I would pick Marvin Bagley as my number 2 overall pick. Rolling right along, I'll ask you guys a two-parter. Does Kawhi Leonard get moved on or before draft night? And if he does he get moved to the Celtics? Ryan?
I think he gets moved after the draft, and I'm going to say not the Celtics.
Okay. Where do you think he gets moved?
I want to say LA.
So if you want, I can give you the odds that were posted from Bovada. I think they're interesting to see. The Lakers were heavy favorites. Jesus Christ, we talk too much in our Twitter chat. I'm trying to find it in the backlog. We talk so much. Oh my God, Pat Drake needs to shut up. But the odds were over 1-to-1 odds for LA, and then the next greatest odds were the Celtics at 15-4, and then Philly and San Antonio at 5-1. So there's heavy betting in favor of him going to LA. So I think that's a safe pick, and I think it's probably going to be right. But I think it's very interesting to see that the Celtics are in second place in terms of betting odds. Pete, any thoughts on the Kawhi Leonard situation? Do you think he'll get moved for the draft, or do you think it'll be a midsummer sort of thing?
I've been back and forth on it the whole time, honestly, because if the Spurs are smart, then they will move. If they think it's irreparable, then they will move him before the draft so that they can get draft picks for this season. Because next season, I've been looking at it a little bit, and it's definitely not. It doesn't have the same high power as it does for this draft. So if they're smart, they would. But I have a feeling that Pop still wants to keep Kawhi, and he's going to try and sell him on the Supermax. So I think that he's probably going to stick around until after the draft. But if he does get traded, I think it will be to the Celtics because I think Danny Ainge is in love with them. I don't know what the deal will be. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if they traded Kyrie Irving. Just because from the sense of if you're looking at each player individually, I think that Kawhi fits what the Celtics want to do by playing both ends of the court more than Kyrie does. Because Kyrie's an elite scorer, but he really doesn't play that much defense.
Yeah, he is not he's not an elite defender, even though he did definitely visibly try harder on the defensive end in the Brad Stevens system. So I think that's fair. Me personally, I'm going to be boring and say he doesn't get moved before the draft. And if he does get moved, I think it will be the Lakers, which is annoying, but whatever. Last question. Who do the Celtics draft next week? Pete, I'll start with you. Who are the Celtics drafting? Give me your pick.
I'm going to go Mo Bamba. I really think that – I think – no.
You think they're going to move up and go get Mo Bamba?
I do, yeah, because I think that they're going to try and push for Kawhi and nothing's going to come together. So I think that they're going to trade up and get the guy that they want. Because if they've – like we've talked about before, if they circle in on a guy and they think that he's the guy that can fit their system, then they're going to take him. And I might not necessarily agree with it, but I think that's the move that they're going to make. I don't know who necessarily they're going to trade to get up there. If it's Terry Rozier and next year's Sacramento pick or something like that, could make sense. I think you could probably get a team to bite on that too. But I don't think they'll trade Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, or anything like that.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
It's not going to pay off. I'm going to be wrong.
Oh, you're going to be so fucking wrong. It's going to be hilarious. Ryan, who are the Celtics drafting?
I want to say Grayson Allen.
You're going to go Grayson Allen?
Earlier, he's like Danny Ainge 2.0, but more athletic and probably a better overall scorer than Ainge was in his NBA days. So, and there's other guys like Landry Schmidt and Omari Spellman, Mo Wagner, but I'm going to go Grayson Allen.
Oh, you bastard. You said it. I thought I was going to surprise everybody. My pick is Mo Wagner. I think they're going to go draft him. He's a big, huge German guy who played for Michigan, 7 feet tall, 240. He's a moose who can also shoot, which is important. He's got a good outside shot. He's great in the lane in terms of rebounding. He needs to work on his inside offensive game and a bit of his defense as well. But he's a guy who could really be an important piece in the middle. I was going back and forth between him and Mitchell Robinson, but Danny Ainge clearly cares about character because he passed on Markelle Fultz, who was thought to be the better talent. So I think Mo Wagner, because he doesn't have any character issues. He's not an idiot who skipped out on college completely and also didn't go to the pros after. Even the Balls managed to get to a pro league instead of go to college. So I don't know what Mitchell Robinson was thinking, but I'm going to pick Mo Wagner just to be different and difficult. So I think that's just about it. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about tonight?
No.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap us up. We're coming in around 40 minutes. I'd say that's pretty good for show number 1. Hopefully, we'll be back next week with a little draft recap, a little more Celtics talk, maybe looking forward to the Summer League. But until then, I guess everyone enjoy their night, and we'll be signing off now. Everyone have a good one.
Peace.
See you later.